Come a little closer. Let's talk quietly for a moment. You don't need to impress anyone here. You don't need to explain yourself. Just listen as if someone were sitting across from you, speaking slowly with care. Tell me, how many times have you prayed for something that never came? How many times did you ask God for one thing and receive something completely different? A door you wanted stayed closed. A person you begged to stay left. A season you hoped would end dragged on longer than you thought you could bear. And at some point, maybe you wondered, quietly, respectfully, but honestly, did God hear me? Did I ask wrong, or did he forget? If you've lived long enough, and you know this truth already, even if no one ever said it out loud, life doesn't unfold according to our requests. It unfolds according to our formation. God doesn't build lives the way we order things from a catalog. He builds lives the way a craftsman shapes wood, slowly, deliberately, sometimes against the grain. What you asked for was comfort. What you received was endurance. What you asked for was peace. What you received was a lesson in patience. What you asked for was relief. What you received was strength you didn't even know you were capable of carrying. And that difference, that painful gap between what you wanted and what arrived, that's where wisdom is born. At a younger age, we pray for outcomes. As we grow older, life teaches us that God is more interested in who we are becoming than in what we are receiving. Think back for a moment. The hardest seasons of your life, the ones that aged you, shaped you, humbled you, did they destroy you? Or did they quietly prepare you for something you could not have handled before? You see, God does not place you in spaces you're not ready to stand in. He prepares the ground, and then he prepares you. That's why life sometimes feels unfair, because preparation is rarely gentle. It stretches you. It exposes you. It demands more patience than you thought you had left. But here is something many people never realize until it's too late. The people who challenged you were not accidents. The delays were not mistakes. The disappointments were not punishments. They were tools. God does not always send the people you ask for. Sometimes he sends the people who test you to sharpen your discernment, to strengthen your character, to teach you where your boundaries truly are. You didn't need more comfort. You needed clarity. You didn't need everything to go your way. You needed to learn how to stand when it didn't. And that's hard to accept, especially when you're tired. Especially when you've already carried so much. Especially when you thought, surely by now, it should be easier. But maturity brings a different understanding. At some point in life, you realize that unanswered prayers were not rejections. They were redirections. God wasn't withholding something good from you. He was withholding something premature. Because giving you what you wanted before you were ready would have harmed you more than helped you. So let me ask you something gently. What if the very thing you're still confused about was never meant to make sense at the time? What if it only makes sense now, because now you can finally see how much you've grown? You are not behind, you are not forgotten. You are not being punished. You are being prepared, even at this stage of life. Especially at this stage of life. Because God never stops shaping a willing heart. And sometimes, the greatest gift he gives you is not what you asked for, but what you needed to become who you are today. Sit with that for a moment. Now that we've opened that door, let's walk through it carefully. Because what comes next may not feel gentle, but it will feel true. Let me ask you something that might stir a few quiet memories. Have you ever had someone come into your life and leave a wound so deep it made you question everything? Someone who betrayed your trust, disrespected your kindness, pushed you to the edge of what your heart could carry. You asked God to bring you love, and instead, he brought someone who tested your ability to love yourself. You asked for healing, and instead, he let the wound stay open just long enough for you to learn how to treat it properly, so it wouldn't open again later. This is where most people get stuck. They think God's silence during betrayal is approval. They think the presence of pain means the absence of purpose. But listen carefully. Not every painful person is sent by the devil. Some are sent by God, not to bless you, but to break something in you that couldn't stay if you were going to rise. That bitterness, that need to be needed, that fear of being alone, those are not character traits, they're survival mechanisms. And God loves you too much to let you carry survival habits into your next chapter. So he sends people who expose the cracks. He allows just enough pressure to bring the fracture to the surface. You asked to be stronger, and he gave you situations that required strength. You asked to be wise, and he gave you the consequences of a foolish choice. You asked for peace, and he let your comfort get disrupted so you could finally set boundaries. And it hurts, doesn't it? When someone walks in and stirs up all the dust you thought had settled. When life flips upside down and you're left staring at a version of yourself you thought you'd already healed. But hear me, that disruption isn't cruelty, it's clarity. God is not punishing you by removing people. He's positioning you by revealing who was never meant to stay. And sometimes that includes parts of you. Because you cannot step into the next version of your life while clinging to the version of yourself who only knew how to survive. Think about it. How many times have you prayed for transformation, but resisted the very friction that would create it? You can't become who you're meant to be and keep the same reactions, the same fears, the same patterns. So what does God do? He doesn't send comfort, he sends catalysts. People who challenge you, moments that humble you, interruptions that force you to look inward. And in those moments, the ones that feel like everything is falling apart, something deeper is actually falling into place. You begin to see it, don't you? The heartbreak wasn't just loss, it was redirection. The delay wasn't rejection, it was preparation. The silence wasn't absence, it was presence in disguise. God doesn't send what makes you feel better. He sends what makes you become better. And when you stop resenting the pressure, you start recognizing the purpose. So now, I'll ask you again, but with a new lens. Who or what in your life right now feels like a burden, but might actually be your greatest teacher? At some point in life, something quietly changes inside you. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And you begin asking a different question, a heavier one. What is this trying to teach me? That question only comes with age, with scars, with nights you didn't talk about, with prayers you whispered instead of shouted. When you're younger, you want answers fast. You want problems removed. You want people to change. You want God to act quickly. But as the years pass, you realize something sobering. Speed doesn't produce wisdom. Comfort doesn't produce depth. And ease doesn't produce character. Life produces those things slowly. That's why God doesn't rush you. He stretches you. He allows seasons where you feel pulled backward, where it seems like progress has stopped, where others think you've stalled, regressed, or missed your moment. But here's what most people misunderstand. Being pulled back is not the same as being abandoned. Think of an arrow. Before it moves forward with force, it must be drawn back, held under tension, aligned, positioned. The pull feels like resistance, but it's actually preparation. Many people panic when life pulls them back. They assume something is wrong. They assume they failed. They assume God changed his mind. But what if the pull was necessary? What if God was aligning you, not delaying you? You see, not everyone can handle where you're meant to go. Not everyone can survive the responsibility, the influence, the weight of it. So God doesn't just prepare the place, he prepares the person. That's why life demanded patience from you when you wanted speed, humility when you wanted recognition, endurance when you wanted relief. And it's exhausting, isn't it? Especially at a stage of life when you thought the hardest lessons were behind you, when you believed you had already paid your dues, when you quietly told yourself, surely, I've learned enough by now. But wisdom doesn't retire, and growth doesn't end at a certain age. If anything, the later years are when growth becomes more refined, less about ambition, more about alignment, less about proving, more about understanding. God doesn't stretch you to hurt you. He stretches you because there is still more in you, more patience, more clarity, more discernment, more peace, but the kind that can't be shaken. And here's a truth that's hard to swallow, but freeing once you accept it. If God removed every difficult person from your life, you might never discover how strong, wise, or grounded you actually are. Some people were allowed close to you, not to stay, but to reveal something. They showed you where you compromised too much, where you stayed quiet too long, where you tolerated what should have been corrected. That revelation wasn't meant to shame you. It was meant to mature you. Because maturity isn't about never being hurt. It's about no longer being confused by pain. It's about recognizing patterns, understanding people without absorbing their behavior, and learning when to stay and when to step back with peace. So, if life has felt like tension lately, like pressure without explanation, like being stretched in ways you didn't ask for, pause before you assume it's a setback. Ask yourself instead, what if this tension is shaping me for a season where I'll need steadiness more than speed? Because the greatest strength is not loud. It's quiet, stable, rooted. And those roots only grow deep when the soil is heavy. Sit with that, let it settle not in your head, but in your heart. Let's talk about the people. The ones who broke your heart. The ones who disappointed you when you needed them the most. The ones who didn't see you, or worse, pretended to. You didn't ask for that pain. You asked for love. You asked for loyalty. You asked for someone to stay. But instead, God sent rejection. And it felt cruel. It felt personal. It felt like punishment. But with time, you started to see what was really happening. That rejection was redirection. That loss was protection. You thought you were being punished, but God was pulling you away from places that would have drained the life out of you slowly. He wasn't denying you love. He was teaching you to stop begging for it from empty wells. You've been in rooms that shrunk you, relationships that confused you, conversations that silenced you. You know what it's like to be the strong one and the lonely one, to carry everyone else's weight and still wonder who will carry yours. That's not weakness. That's soul fatigue, and the universe doesn't overlook it. God doesn't ignore it. Sometimes the lesson isn't to keep carrying more. Sometimes the lesson is to release what was never yours in the first place. You were raised to be responsible, to be useful, to put others first. And maybe no one ever taught you that your needs matter too, but God does. That's why He lets certain things fall apart. Not to punish you, but to rebuild you around truth. Not performance, not perfection, not people-pleasing. Truth, the truth that you don't have to prove your worth, that you're not behind, that you haven't missed your chance. The truth that your value was never tied to who stayed or who saw you. It was never dependent on how much you could produce, or how well you could pretend to be okay. God doesn't operate in appearances. He operates in alignment. And sometimes, alignment costs you everything that kept you misaligned. The identity you built just to survive. The image you maintained just to be accepted. The dreams you inherited that were never really yours. It's a painful process, losing what once made you feel safe. But survival is not the same as healing. And settling is not the same as peace. If you're in a season of shedding, of releasing, of standing in unfamiliar spaces, wondering who you are now, know this, you're not breaking down, you're breaking open. There's a version of you that has never been here before. A quieter version, a truer one that doesn't need to perform or pretend anymore. That version is who God is preparing. Not for the life you lost, but for the life that's finally aligned with your soul. And the beauty of this stage is this. You no longer want what drains you. You don't chase what confuses you. You don't cling to what delays you. You start walking differently. Not faster, not louder, but with more clarity and less need for control. That's when you realize you're not lost. You're just no longer interested in going back. So here you are. Maybe a little bruised, a little quieter, a little more guarded than you used to be, but you're still standing. And that matters more than most people will ever understand. Because you've walked through things that didn't leave marks on your skin, they marked your soul. You've held yourself together in rooms where you felt invisible. You've smiled through seasons that almost shattered you. And here's the truth. You didn't get everything you asked for. You didn't get the answers when you begged for them. You didn't get the timing you hoped for. But what you did get was stronger. What you got was discernment. You learned the difference between what looks good and what is good. You stopped calling chaos passion. You stopped calling crumbs connection. You stopped calling noise purpose. God didn't give you what you wanted. He gave you what would wake you up. He gave you the delays that humbled you, the detours that taught you, the disappointments that made you question what you were chasing in the first place. He gave you silence so you could finally hear your own voice again. And maybe that's the point. Maybe this season isn't about gaining more. It's about becoming more. Not louder, not busier, not more successful in the world's eyes, but more you. More rooted, more honest, more whole. Because God isn't in the business of shortcuts. He's not giving you surface victories that crumble under pressure. He's building you slowly for something that lasts. And if it feels like everyone else is ahead, breathe. You're not behind. You're just being prepared differently. Maybe your path takes longer because it's deeper. Maybe your foundation needs to be stronger because your calling reaches higher. So don't rush this. Don't resent it. Don't trade authenticity for speed. Because when it finally arrives, when the thing that is meant for you shows up, you won't have to beg for it. You won't have to shrink for it. You won't have to break to keep it. It will recognize you, because you'll finally recognize yourself. And if these words found you today, maybe it's not because you're lost. Maybe it's because you're exactly where you're meant to be, becoming who you were always meant to become.